In 2008, the CIA sent a team of 4 operators on a spy mission targeting China. None came back. Internally, the CIA officers blamed the mission failure and deaths of 4 of their men on Bob Kandra, the Special Activities Division Chief at the time. How a 2008 spy mission went wrong. 4 operators targeting China never made it back. In 2008, the Central Intelligence Agency sent a team of 4 operators on a spy mission targeting China. None came back. Their target was a small piece of land to the north of Luzon, the Philippines' largest island. The CIA believed the Chinese military was occupying this small island in the area and had been hotly disputed. The mission was for 2 scuba divers to emplace a pod disguised as a rock that would then passively monitor electronic signals of Chinese naval ships. But Tropical Storm Hugas barreled down on the 4 operators, and a beacon of the ship tracked the boat into the center of the storm until it disappeared. U.S. military personnel in the region remained oblivious to the CIA's failed covert operation and had no part in any recovery effort. Nothing was ever found, not even a floating life jacket, a former CIA officer recalled. Internally, the CIA officers blamed the mission failure, the deaths of the 4 of their men on Bob Kandra, the Special Activities Division Chief at the time. There was a lot of pressure to do ops. They just didn't have to die. They did a mission that you didn't have to do. And Bob was such a bad leader, a lot of officers blamed Kandra for the shit that happened in the Pacific. More than a decade after the operation, many in the CIA felt that Kandra, who has been since retired, was never held accountable for the deaths. Eventually, he was removed from the SAD and sent to a low-pressure job in Vienna, Austria. But he was pulled from that station as well over what one former CIA operations officer described as Kandra's chaos as a leadership style. And this is just one of the many, many black ops, unauthorized, dirty deeds that have been done by these rogue agencies and the highly corrupt, failed leadership at the top, going on for decades. Want to take a minute to welcome everybody to the Patriot Hour. Again, I am Michael, your host. If you're new to the channel, please subscribe. If you're a returning Patriot, welcome back. We highly suggest you take a look down below in the description box. Take a look down in the comment section. Leave a comment. Some of the greatest Patriots right here, part of the Patriot Hour. Likely timeline of events to take place from September 20th to January 20th, covering vaccines, SCOTUS, Election Day, markets, terrorism, and insurrection. And as well as an article from the DC Dirty Laundry airing out America's dirty laundry. Again, this is just a likely timeline for reference. Use your discernment. This is not a prediction, and nothing is set in stone. This timeline, although subject to change, is our current best guess at how the moves on the chessboard are likely to play out. It covers the SCOTUS nomination, Election Day, the Insurrection Act, left-wing terrorism, deep state terrorism, financial markets, election outcomes, and more. There's also a commendable overview of the coming chaos at all news pipeline story, which is worth checking out after you review this video. Pre-election chaos, September 20th through November 2nd. Left-wing insurrectionists will continue to ramp up their riots, resorting to increasingly violent and escalated attacks on law enforcement, federal buildings, and conservative groups such as the Proud Boys. These attacks will most likely take place in blue cities, in blue counties, in blue states. That's because Democrats allow and even encourage these riots, while Republicans tend to shut them down with police action. Recent attempts by left-wing rioters to stage large events in red states, such as Texas, have been quickly shut down. Both Antifa and BLM terrorist organizations only have legal protection for their acts in areas where left-wing DAs will refuse to charge them with crimes. Notably, a new surge of riots and looting will take place, and violence will now take place due to the passing of Ruth Bader Ginsburg, the infanticide advocate who was a hero of the bloodthirsty left because she protected their right to murder their own babies without legal consequences. And they are now infuriated over the thought that a foe of unlimited abortion might be appointed to the court. We anticipate pro-abortion rioters and left-wing anarchists will specifically target the homes of GOP senators, rioting outside their homes and threatening violence against them and their families if they do not agree to delay any vote on a new Supreme Court justice until after the January 20th. These riots have already begun against McConnell, but will expand to many, many other senators. And importantly, President Trump will not take aggressive law enforcement action against terrorist uprisings before the election. Rules of engagement with rioters will continue to be relatively passive, allowing rioters to escalate their tactics without much of a response from any federal law enforcement. Now, all of this will change right after the election. We'll get into that a bit more here. But until then, America is going to have to endure about 40 plus days of chaos, arson, violence, and illegal rebellion activity that will target Trump supporters, law enforcement, Christians, and conservatives alike. And during all of this time, the U.S. Senate will likely hold hearings for a new SCOTUS nominee, but will not hold a vote before the election. The reason for this comes down to vulnerable Senate seats, where GOP members in tight races might be unable to hold their seats if they are forced to vote on a new SCOTUS nominee before the election. The stock market will continue to trend upward during this time due to the relentless money printing by the Federal Reserve. They will put out all stops to keep the markets going, even if it means directly purchasing equities. There will be a huge price to pay for all this money printing later, of course, unless there is a strong possibility of a military conflict within China in the South China Sea near Taiwan before the election. Pentagon forces are itching for war, and they want to stage a conflict there to open the coffers so that the money flows to the weapon contractors who give kickbacks to top Pentagon officials. On Election Day, big tech will activate widespread censorship of nearly all conservative channels, blacklisting them from posting so that only pro-Biden conversations can take place online. Any who post in favor of Trump will be instantly banned. The insurrectionist corporate media will gaslight the nation, declaring Trump isn't winning even when he is. Any results that show Trump winning in a landslide will be dismissed as early disinformation because, of course, the media has to give the Democrats enough time to counterfeit the fake ballots they need in the districts they need to try to steal to win the election. As the election gets underway, the left-wing media will fake exit polls to try to establish that Biden is winning. This way, when Democrats counterfeit ballots, stolen election results will match all of their fake exit polls, and the media will claim it all checks out. They'll be like, you remember, Cindy, on election night we were showing Minneapolis coming in, polling for Biden, yeah. They set the narrative, create the lie, and then point back. It's kind of like James Comey, write my own book, and then in an interview, cite my own book as fact, and then, use it as a talking point. Well, the book says, well, you wrote that book, sir. Well, yes, I did. By the close of end of day on election night, Trump will be winning an electoral victory. But many swing states such as Michigan and Pennsylvania will deliberately delay the reporting of their result, claiming mail-in ballots will take weeks, if not months, to count. So they will refuse to officially report any victory for Trump. I will be covering Election Day events live in real time on my social media platforms here on YouTube, if allowed, and Twitter, Periscope, and just a barrage of all social media. Now, immediate post-election action, folks. What you are witnessing on the screen here for the last few minutes is nothing compared to immediately after the election. The deep state Democrats and the leftists will likely activate their full-blown chaos agenda to throw the country into mass chaos, making any accurate counting of remaining votes almost impossible. This will likely begin with the so-called zero day attacks by the key U.S. infrastructure, including the power grid, telecommunications, transportation, and water supplies. These attacks will plunge many areas of America into extreme chaos and lead to exploding crisis scenarios, which will quickly escalate into panic among the populations of certain cities where the attacks are focused. In concert with the zero-day attacks, left-wing insurrectionists will be giving the green light signal to flood into the streets, violently attacking Trump supporters with the full forces of the weapons that have been smuggled into the hands of Black Lives Matter terrorists via communist China, which is providing heavy weapons to U.S. insurrectionists, full auto battle rifles, RPGs, mortars, and much, much more. Within days, many of American streets will be full-blown active war zones. This will quickly force Trump to invoke the Insurrection Act, which he will do, activating military assets, which has been pre-positioned in all 50 U.S. cities under the cover of Operation Warp Speed, the vaccine program. From here, curfews will be enacted in many cities, and the military personnel will quickly regain control of the streets. This will drive left-wing forces into guerrilla warfare mode, which will continue through January. In this mode, left-wing terrorists will resort to classic guerrilla warfare tactics such as sabotage, politically targeted assassinations, and bombings of key infrastructure. We are going to witness the radical left descend into a full-blown militant insurrectionist force like the Shining Path in Peru, with kidnappings of children of the prominent conservatives, assassinations, bombings, and much, much more. It won't take long for all of this to escalate. Post-election chaos, November, December, and January. Now we anticipate several Democrat-run states flat out refusing to certify results in favor of Trump, no matter how long it takes. We are essentially going to witness acts of succession among several blue states, most likely California, Oregon, and Washington. During this time, legal battles will be raging at the local level across all of the nation, with Trump's legal team attempting to nullify fraudulent votes and fake ballots printed up by the Dems, and Democrats trying to include all fake votes they have fabricated after the election. The future of this nation will depend on the outcome of these legal battles, perhaps coming down to a single court in a single state that could determine the entire election. The possibility of increased tension with China, perhaps via a proxy war involving Taiwan, is heightened during this time. Watch for a Navy vessel conflict of some sort. We anticipate the U.S. Senate voting to confirm a new Supreme Court justice fairly quickly right after the election. Most likely, there are a few different candidates. It should be a woman. The fact that she is a woman will avoid the left wing's media's unusual fabrication of a sex-related allegations against a male nominees, similar to Kavanaugh or Clarence Thomas, etc. They will find new ways to attack the woman, most likely attacking her religious faith. To the demons on the left, a person of faith is seen as a mortal enemy to them. By all measures, the Democrats will flat out refuse to concede the election again to Trump, no matter what the votes say. Even if he is winning 400-vote electoral by a landslide, they will claim he's not legitimate, and therefore they refuse to participate in the election outcome unless, of course, they win it. We wouldn't be surprised if some prominent Democrats attempt to split off and claim Biden is the legitimate president, asserting that Trump stole the election through whatever mechanism sounds good at the time when they're in front of the microphone. They may try to invoke a military coup against Trump, or even physically overrun and occupy the White House to physically place Joe Biden inside that symbol of power. During this time, we see a very strong role of militia groups nationwide in protecting local areas, and perhaps even the White House, against left-wing attempts to overrun and seize control by force. There will likely be standoffs and possible kinetic engagements between militia forces and left-wing insurrectionists, although we should encourage patriotic Americans to allow the military to do its job and put down the insurrectionists using the Insurrection Act powers under the direction of President Trump. Also during this time, there will be the same battle over faithless electors that we saw after the 2016 election, where blue states tried to force their electoral college voters to vote against the will of the people. Denying Trump the official electoral college vote, he needs to officially claim a second term. However, recent court cases have ruled that in many states, these faithless electors are not allowed to simply vote whatever way they wish, so this effort will fail. Importantly, the new SCOTUS justice will be sworn in during this time, granting conservatives a 6-3 majority, technically only a 5-4 majority since Roberts is a compromised black male traitor who now votes against conservative principles. This will be key, as it seems likely one or more local court decisions involving mail-in voters will end up in the hands of SCOTUS under emergency appeal, and the court ruling will be pivotal in deciding the accepted outcome of the election. In the end, we currently give Trump a 70% chance of achieving victory. After everything is said and done, which is significant improvement over where he was in April of this year in the early days of the coronavirus pandemic. Biden's 30% chance comes from the level of extreme organization of illegal ballot harvesting, voter fraud, and ballot counterfeiting that is being carried out by the lawless left, along with the coordinated censorship of nearly all pro-Trump voices across all social media and big tech platforms. During these months, we anticipate very high market, with several plunges in the market as social chaos is unleashed across the country in an orchestrated manner. The left-wing riots, infrastructure failures, and general feeling of doom and gloom will put heavy downward pressure on all the markets. And it wouldn't be outlandish to expect a 30% correction in the Dow during this time, with perhaps a 40% correct in certain overvalued tech stocks. Gold and silver will skyrocket during all of the chaos, as prices of guns and ammo as well. U.S. military troops will maintain a heavy presence on the streets of left-wing cities, which is nearly every large city, in order to maintain law and order. To some people, America will begin to look like a war state under martial law. But in fact, most conservatives will welcome the presence of these troops, given the extreme violence of the radical leftist. Expect to see military roadway checkpoints in and around some of these U.S. cities, where the mayors have failed to stop the looting, rioting, and burning. Expected continued shortages in food, products, and consumer goods during this time, with infrastructure failures becoming more frequent and left-wing terrorists targeting long-haul trucks and raiding retail stores on the regulars. We will all be living through a time of extreme shortages and some uncertainty. The national economic will continue to crumble during all this time, with sharp increases in joblessness and homelessness. Expect very long food lines across all 50 states, with tens of millions of Americans facing food insecurity as well as imminent homelessness if the federal ban on evictions is lifted. Along with this, we expect a sharp increase in local crime as once polite people turn desperate and begin looting and stealing in order to feed themselves, their families, their loved ones. Crimes of desperation will skyrocket. Vaccines will begin to become available during this time, and the government may offer financial incentives for people to get injected. Given the economic collapse and desperation, many people will agree to the immunizations over the next few years. We will all come to learn how these vaccines ended up killing so many people and rendering huge numbers permanently infertile, thereby achieving depopulation goals. When Trump wins by a landslide, the unhappy deep state leftists, and they will see this day as their last opportunity to try to overthrow the nation or go down in flames, trying. We're talking about Inauguration Day, January 20th, 2021. Here, the media will reveal their true treason against America, and they will denounce President Trump and his whole second term. On this day, we expect many top deep state Democrats and leftists and the deep state traitors to flee the country, as their arrest will be imminent. This may be the day that the left-wing governors and traitors within the Pentagon declare war on America, setting off a full-blown civil war that could eventually be seen with UN troops invading America and fighting on the side of the Democrats to try to overthrow the U.S. government and install their own president into power. We won't know more about this dangerous dynamic until we see how the election plays out. Now, Trump will kick off his second term, sets off an epic fight to defend America by arresting and shutting down the treasonous actors within our country, the insurrectionists and deep state traitors who try to overthrow this nation. We will see mass arrests of people like John Brennan, and perhaps even people like Hillary Clinton and Barack Hussein Obama himself, one of the masterminds of the deep state treason against America. California Governor Newsom, a hardened mafia criminal, will also likely be arrested and charged with money laundering and sedition. With Trump in power for a second term, the radical left will go scorched earth mode on America, advocating and activating every asset to destroy America's infrastructure, poison water supplies, bomb buildings, burn cities to the ground, and mass murder as many people as possible. This is the goal of the leftist. They hate America and want to see it be destroyed, and they know that this is their last opportunity to bring the country down before they are exterminated and removed from power. Importantly, in Trump's second term, the DNC will be disbanded and the Democratic Party will implode. Ultimately, we hope to see Trump ordering the military police arrest of big tech CEOs while seizing tech companies, fake news media operatives who are most likely working with China and the CIA, university professors who are terror recruitment operatives, and leaders of the left-wing movements. And if, on the other hand, in some other scenario, Trump loses the rigged election because Democrats and the deep state have rigged it, we can expect a civil war to be well underway by this time, with any number of scenarios unfolding across the landscape of cities and different states. No matter who wins, we will see America breaking apart by 2025, as a lunatic leftist deep state Democrats are now flatly incompatible with civil society. They cannot function in a system rooted in fairness, free speech, and equal protection under the law. They can only flourish under rigged, authoritarian systems rooted in government tyranny and the destruction of fundamental human rights, such as the right to speak freely. Nearly all Democrats have transformed into a hate-filled, raging lunatic who cannot function under a system of law or reason without any logic. Thus, we do not see California, Oregon, and/or Washington State wanting to participate in future of the nation, where their government tyranny is nullified by liberty. They may attempt to secede from the Union, setting off regional civil war action in their own states, as rural citizens face off against urban citizens to determine who controls the fate of their state. Now again here at the Patriot Hour, I am not trying to scare you, I am trying to prepare you. Stock up on some food, why not? Firearms, ammunition, communications gear, water filters, off-grid gear of any sorts, and everything you think you might need to survive for a month or so, while chaos and civil war possibly break out onto the scene. There are many scenarios in which civil war becomes a most likely outcome. Bug out of cities now while you still can. You do not want to be left in any large city once all of this gets out of hand and underway. Prepare for internet outages and sabotage. We're going to be posting an IP address soon that you can use to bypass DNS systems and access our websites, even if global name servers go down. I've been here for just about 3 years, telling you all of this, speaking of the planned rioting and orchestrated chaos, which is now here, full front, in our streets across America. It is only going to peak. We all remember the military movements at the beginning of the COVID, and people asking, why do you need tanks to fight a virus? Well, you don't. You need the tanks and the military to stop the civil unrest that has been orchestrated by these people that are very evil. Again, I am Michael. This is the Patriot Hour. God bless and Godspeed to each and every one of you. And where we go one, we go all. We appreciate all the support here at the Patriot Hour. All the links are down below underneath this video in the description box. Take a look at the comment section, leave a thumbs up, make sure you are subscribed, and ring the bell if you're a returning Patriot. Welcome back. We appreciate all the support. Share this video across all social media platforms while you can, and to help red pill as many people as possible. We truly appreciate all the help.
Holy fucking shit, you guys! I'm driving your car, but I just got a notification that Ruth Bader Ginsburg died! Fuck! Could this year get any fucking worse? Ruth, you just had to make it to 2021! Ah!